Today's episode will be using clips from other YouTube channels as well as TikTok. We are allowed to use these clips under the fair use copyright law here in the United States. A link to the channels used will be down in the description box below. Please make sure to check out the channels that were used.
What's up, guys? What I've got in my hand here can be considered one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in all of the Americas. This is what's known as the Key Marco cat, or at least a replica of it. It is a figurine discovered in 1896 during excavations by Frank Hamilton Cushing in southwest Florida. It is discovered in the tribal territory of the Calusa or Muspa people. But what makes it so interesting is that nothing like it had ever been discovered before or has been discovered since in the Americas. Now, the style of this figurine, of likely a Florida panther, is actually closer to Egyptian figurines than anything else discovered in the Americas, which led researchers to start theorizing towards a transatlantic origin for figurines like this. If you'd like to find out more, check out my YouTube channel, Old World Florida.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta with our coffee chat. I'm here with one of my besties, Catherine Edwards. If you're new here, we alternate every other week, and we try to find really cool subjects to just talk about, not necessarily like a deep dive, but just kind of look at stuff and talk about. And I'm so excited about today's topic. But before we get into it, how are you doing today, Catherine?
Do you know, I'm doing so well today. I've been through the roller coaster last week of the dip, and I'm definitely back on the back up again. So I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm excited because this is such an incredible, it's what do they call it? A mind tickle. The topic we're going to talk about today, it's one of those things that just kind of tickles your mind and just makes you kind of go, huh. But before we get into that, two things. This is airing on Friday morning, February. It's not February. Scratch that. I don't know where that came from. May 23rd. It's May 23rd, Friday. You're not crazy. Today is Friday, May 23rd. I don't know why February just came out, but that's what happened. And at 5 o'clock Eastern my time, so 5 o'clock my time, tonight we're having an open house at the Esoteric Academy. It's your last chance if you want the link to come to the open house. It's 5 p.m., so that's Eastern time, so New York City time. We're going to be doing a strength training class, and I will answer your questions. So if you're curious about the Esoteric Academy, this is the last few hours you have to get that link for a free class. Just email me at esotericatlanta@gmail.com, and I will send you a link to that class. But speaking of exercise, guys, I was telling you, Catherine, before we signed on, your daughter has just opened up this Instagram account in this business, and I am loving it. Do you want to share it quickly? Because Lois is kicking ass with this, and she's so young, too, which is so incredible that she's this organized at her age.
I would love it. Let me share screen. Can you see that okay, Bryce?
I can, yes. Yes.
She doesn't know we're doing this, and no one tell her. But my daughter is absolutely incredible. She's been through an awful lot in her young life, and she's an incredible mental performance coach. She's really, really great into her exercise. She's had to learn an awful lot about health, recovery through some serious injuries she's had. And this is her and her friends, the Zenith formula on Instagram. Bryce will put the link below. And she doesn't know we're doing this, but this is a brand new page. She's only started it a week ago. There's going to be some great motivational content on there. So if anyone fancies giving her a share, it would mean a lot, because she really does know what she's doing, and she's so passionate about helping people. So thank you so much for letting me share that, Bryce.
Absolutely. You know, she's a professional athlete, and there's a lot to learn from professional athletes. That's why I love talking to like our friend Jamie Soleil. There's so much to learn. You know, for most people will never be at that level of athleticism, but just what they've learned about the body, because their body is also their moneymaker too. And so the way that they've had to pay attention to the precision of their body, there's so much we can learn, and the discipline it takes to be an athlete is unbelievable. I mean, I think I have to be disciplined to do what I do, but what Lois has to do is 10 times harder.
It's amazing. And mental resilience, you know, we've talked a lot about resilience in our shows. We really have. And I think everyone who's watching this is really well aware that there's been a deliberate plan by the powers that be, that are no longer powerful, to make us unresilient. And to see two youngsters, her and her friends, that have really built mental resilience through some really, really tough times, I think is really applaudable. And she's very wise, her, but beyond her years. So, but shh, don't Hello, Robbie.
Robbie agrees. Hold on one second. Robbie
Yeah.
agrees. All right, go see Daddy. Go see Daddy. Go see
I love it when dogs agree. They're just so great at that. They always know when to fit.
I know. Well, he's a fan of Lois too. And you guys,
Exactly.
it costs nothing to go and follow someone on Instagram. And we're all just walking each other home. I love that quote from Ram Dass. You guys know that. And so the more we can support each other, the more we get out of the mess we're in. Like, let's start supporting each other instead of supporting them, the establishment. Let's support each other. You know,
Love it.
Let us become the new establishment, and we actually help each other, and we look for the truth. And so just go give Lois a follow. All that information will be down in the description box below. It costs nothing. Just hit subscribe to her channels, or follow on Instagram, and that will really help her and her friend get their business started. And you know, we didn't have Instagram, Catherine, when I was Lois's age. I know.
No, we didn't. But I want to shout out, and Bryce doesn't know I was going to do this. I have been working through the Esoteric Academy, and the stuff that Paula and Bryce have got on there is so valuable. And you know, we're in a time now, we're going to have a fun discussion today, but look, getting ourselves strong physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything changes about your outlook on life. You know, you're much less subject to programming. You're much more resilient in all areas of life. Your energy field is stronger, and that radiates out and impacts everyone. So for people, join Bryce's thing, get on there tonight, ask the questions, but also try out. There's so many resources on there, regardless of what age you are and what you're looking for. So it's fantastic what you and Paul have put together. Great job.
Well, thank you, Catherine. And we guys, we're all about supporting each other, because we are all just walking each other home, as Ram Dass used to say. And is my internet, am I frozen, Catherine?
You're all right now, but it did go a bit blurry for a bit.
Okay, because, oh God, I don't think the establishment wants us talking about this. Can you still see me?
Yes.
Okay, you guys, because we got a really fun topic, and I have talked about this on and off on my channel because I find it fascinating, Catherine, because, gosh, there's so many lies. And I don't actually even, you know, that other quote we say, Catherine, the more I learn, the less I know. I don't know what the truth is, but it's fascinating. And I definitely believe that where they tell us Egypt is today ain't it. One researcher that I was researching said, oh, that's, you know, Egypt and Africa, that's just the amusement park. So
I've really enjoyed doing some research into this, because it opens up such a bigger picture about why have we been lied to so much? Why has all this stuff been hidden? And it's absolutely fascinating. I know you're going to pull out some specifics for us, but it's not so much a lot of these questions. I find, Bryce, it's not about having an absolute answer necessarily, but about, okay, let's throw away everything we've been taught and look at this rationally from the evidence we've got now. And I think when people see it, they're going to realize that the one thing that we do know is that Egypt isn't where they say it is.
No, it's actually got the least amount of Egyptian. The Egypt in Africa has the least amount of Egyptian artifacts. It has the least amount of pyramids in the world, you guys. So they're laughing at us. The establishment is literally laughing at us that we've fallen for this. Okay, and you know, I was telling you, Catherine, we've been kind of leaving voice that there are some people like, why would they lie about this? Well, why do they lie about a lot of things? I don't know, but there is some theories that people have that I don't quite totally understand, but they kind of make sense, and we'll get to that kind of at the end. But I've talked a lot about this, Catherine. I've covered like Tennessee, which is the state above me, which means the land of ISIS. That's what it translates to. We know that a lot of these like fake lakes that we have in America, like Norris Dam, Lake Lanier, were all drowned out certain towns, which now we know, like Norris Dam, it was an ISIS temple. You know, and if we look at the official narrative, the official story, like, and growing up as kids in America, I'm sure all the Americans can join me in this nursery rhyme. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That's when we know, that's when Columbus bumped into, well, the islands at first, and then found this continent, this huge ass continent that we call America. Like, and I was thinking about this last night, Catherine. I was like, God, we're dumb. God, we're dumb. Are you? No. No, we know the Vikings came here. That we know. We also know there was a Welsh prince that came here probably 500 years before Columbus, and that's why they explained there were certain white tribes with blonde hair, blue eyes. Now that's been completely erased from our history books because we never taught that growing up, that there were white people that were natives. We also have the moon-eyed people, which I cover that on Gnostic TV, which was a weird group of people that the Hopi actually spoke about as well over in Nevada, which we're going to get to the Hopi in a minute because we're going to actually move away from the Southeast. I'm going to come back a little bit to the Southeast in a minute, but you guys who've been on my channel a lot, because I'm from the Southeast, this is where the biggest evidence is for me, because I'm near Tennessee. The Appalachian Mountains are unbelievably spooky and weird and beautiful, and the Appalachian Mountains, without a doubt, are the oldest mountain chain in the world. We know that for sure. The Scottish Highlands are believed to be part of the Appalachian Mountains, which is interesting because we know the Scottish Highlands has a lot of woo-woo.
Oh, it certainly does. I've spent a lot of time there over the last year. So, yeah, fascinating.
There's magic, and that's the Appalachians too. There's a magic in these mountain chains. And this particular mountain chain that I've never felt in the Rocky Mountains. I've never felt in any other mountain chain. There's just something about this mountain chain. So when I started realizing that there is this theory that the American continent is the old world, it's flipped. This started to make sense to me just because of in Egypt they had these legends of these healing springs, which now science call a mirage. We know what that is. It's an hallucination. But we actually have healing springs in Florida. There's even a legend of a sulfur-based warm spring in Egypt that would cure people. But again, scientists say, oh, that was just a mirage. No, there is one in Florida. I've been there. I think I messaged you after I went there.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
High as a kite, super relaxed.
Yeah.
So these legends of Egypt that people think are mirages or myths actually are here in the United States. Now, one thing I have not talked about a lot is the Grand Canyon. And that's where I want to start today because this is the most obvious. Because have you been to the Grand Canyon, Catherine?
I have not. No, not yet.
It's a mystery, right? The old Grand Canyon. Like they tell us that it was eroded by the Colorado River. I've rafted down the Colorado River many times. But I think for me, Catherine, even as a kid, there was always a little bit of I don't know if that's actually what happened. Looking at the Grand Canyon, that this was just eroded. I know nature can do wonderful, spectacular things, but it didn't really feel like the full story.
Yeah.
So I have to give a little bit of a background because the United States as a country, we know, is a young country. Now, don't confuse that with the land. As we said, the land is old here. All right. So the Grand Canyon, just so you guys know, it's 277 miles or 446 kilometers long. It's 18 miles or 29 kilometers wide, and the depth of it changes. So where you are, the depth that the caverns, and I don't even think, looking at what we have available, Catherine, I don't even think they're giving us the real depth of the Grand Canyon. Now, at this point, the Grand Canyon is a national park, which we're going to talk about because anytime the government, and I think in all of our countries, comes in and stamps it, that's not to preserve jack shit. That's to put laws up around a land where the people cannot access certain parts of that land. And I think that's true in any national parks in the United Kingdom.
I agree.
They're hiding something because it turns out we, the people, aren't the problem. We're not going to come in and destroy it. Right? So let's talk about before it became a national park. So the state of Arizona, we all know a lot about Arizona. If you're in this community, there's been a lot of talk around Maricopa County in Arizona. So Arizona, back in the early 1900s, early 20th century, Arizona was just a territory. It was not designated as a state yet. That's when they were moving out west, and they were, the western part. It was the New Mexico, Arizona territory. All right. So there was not as much regulation. Now we got this guy named G.E. Kincaid, who in 1909, starting 1908, He was from Wyoming, I believe. He was an archaeologist who worked for the Smithsonian, guys. He was an archaeologist. He decided that I think he, like us, Catherine, was like, he saw what was happening down there, and he was like, I need to go check this place out. Like, I just need to go check it out before the government gets its hands on the Grand Canyon. Because so with this Grand Canyon, we were told, this is what Kincaid probably was thinking, that the first white people to explore the Grand Canyon were the Spanish in the 1540s. But they couldn't really sustain life in the Grand Canyon because it is rough terrain. That's what they tell us, at least, right? That they couldn't do it. The Europeans couldn't hack it. They had to leave the Grand Canyon. In the 1800s, we had prospectors that started coming into the Grand Canyon to dig for copper and gold. They were mining. Well, then in 1901, the railroad was created, and this brought in a lot of supplies. So now the government, the powers that be, they have a problem. Because when it's just a couple people here and there mining, whatever, no one's going to believe a person. They come up and say, hey, we found a mummy, and they're trying to dig for coppers and gold. But when we have the railroad, all of a sudden we have all these supplies coming in so people can stay longer in the Grand Canyon and can do more damage to the establishment. So now before that, Benjamin Harris in 1893 had already made it a federal reserve or a forest reserve. So there was already some regulation, but not a whole lot. And this is, again, the early 20th century, late 19th century. I mean, I think back in that time, this is the wild, wild west, Catherine, where there were saloons and shooting. Yeah, this was dueling. Like, this was wild, the wild territory of the West. The gold rush was happening. And I think back in that time period, like, people could get away with a lot of crime back then because they didn't have...
Absolutely. Like, I mean, who's going to know about it? By the way, if you see me typing, it's just because I suddenly had a thought about looking at Kincaid as an anagram and also in gematria. So if you see me, I'm not doing something while Bryce is talking. It's just you triggered a thought for me.
Oh, good. No, because this is what's fascinating. Because this, and you guys, if I forget to say this later, there are so many YouTube channels out there that their whole channel is devoted to trying to figure out if Egypt is in the Americas. And I'll
tell you what it says in a minute when we get a break.
Oh, I'm excited. Well, so we have some kind of friction happening in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where people were mining and the government's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, uh-oh. So we're trying to have regulation on a land that was wild, that there was already no rules and regulations. So in 1908, President Roosevelt made it a national monument. So this absolutely stopped the mining. So once it became a national monument by President Roosevelt, they couldn't mine anymore. So this removed a lot of mining people, whatever you want to call, whatever they're called for their job. So this is when G.E. Kincaid was like, hell no. Okay, if you work for the Smithsonian, you obviously have seen a few things in your day. So I think he was like, so he took from Wyoming, took the Colorado River down to Yuma, Arizona. So he did the whole river. And again, you guys, he was a archaeologist, so he knew what he was looking for. He left from Green River, Wyoming, and then he arrived. So this was in October of 1908, and he arrived in Yuma in March of 1909. Well, on April 5th of 1909, an article came out in the Arizona Gazette, Explorations in the Grand Canyon, and it said Kincaid had found a cave high above the Colorado River where there were strange artifacts in this cave, both Egypt and Asian. So like Buddhas, Shiva temples, all sorts of stuff he found, hieroglyphics that were Egyptian, were in this cave. Now, mind you guys, before this, they had already found a ton of Egyptian artifacts in like the Midwest, like in Illinois. They were finding Egyptian money. So we've already got these questions. We've got the World's Fair in Chicago, where allegedly they got rid of a lot of this Egyptian artifact here in the United States. It would be one thing, Catherine, if we found like one artifact in the United States.
Exactly.
But this is overwhelming. Something's not right. Something stinks in Denmark, or something stinks in the United States. Like there's overwhelming evidence. They're trying to drown out the early 1900s when they were drowning out creating these dams for, jobs and electricity, but they were drowning out temples. So before we get into the article, do you want to say what you found?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of controversy when you start researching this, if any of you are drawn to, about whether this chap G.E. Kincaid actually existed.
Yeah.
And I did think, Bryce, you know, you've got your friend who goes into looking at ancestry and, you know, tracing the lines back. I did wonder whether she might want to look into.
I'll reach out to her.
Because that would be good. But first and foremost, I thought, is G. Kincaid an anagram? And basically, they've said could be. They think some people have asked this, and they sort of think, because obviously the Smithsonian said there's no record of him, but some people think Kincaid could be a symbolic name. I mean, this is a bit far-reaching, but as Cain, as in Cain and Abel, so kin cave from hidden cave limerick. But when you look at the gematria side of things, G.E. Kincaid comes to 63. So we've got 6 plus 3, and then 6 plus 3 is 9. So in many traditions, 9 is completion, universal truth, hidden wisdom, and initiation. Obviously, the 369 and Nikola Tesla's numbers. And basically, it's looking at, they're saying, completion, universal truth, hidden wisdom, and initiation. So there's different ways of looking at all these, and I thought that was quite interesting, actually.
That is really, that gave me goosebumps.
Because it could, what they're saying is it might be saying that it's both values reduced to 9, a number deeply tied to hidden knowledge and inner seeker. And the mysterious name that G. Kincaid reduces this way supports a theory it might be intentionally constructed rather than random. So there's so many different avenues we can explore to this.
We know that they have to put the truth out.
Yeah.
Some way. Now, what happened? It was the I'm going to pull the article up. Not going to go through the whole article, you guys.
And also, just because sorry to interrupt, but just because people can't trace this G. Kincaid, which might be that he didn't exist, or it might be that he's been deliberately hidden, it doesn't serve the fact that it could be someone else more famous that is using a false identity as well. Yeah. Because we've seen that happen throughout history.
So easy to do that back then. There was no forensic testing, nothing like that. So now they call this, as you said, Catherine, they now call this the Great Arizona Gazette hoax. Well, I think that's also what they call about a lot of things that are actually turn out to be truthful. And you guys know, if you've been with me for a while, I've headbutted with the Smithsonian a lot. I've realized that the Smithsonian, I'll say for YouTube purposes, for educational and entertainment purposes only, wink, wink, is the least, you should not trust the Smithsonian. They're not telling us the truth. They've been caught incinerating fossils. They've been sued multiple times by multiple archaeologists. And actually, if you really want entertainment, people ask me how I research, and part of what I do is I go in the United States, lawsuits are public information. And you can find lawsuits with the Smithsonian, and those are very fascinating to read the complaints. Because the truth, it comes out. They're just hoping you won't do that, right? You'll hear it's a hoax and you'll think it's a hoax, but there's actually, is it a hoax? Because there's so much evidence. And the fact that they won't, now it is highly punishable by law if you're caught in areas of the Grand Canyon you're not supposed to be. So the Arizona Gazette, now granted, Arizona did not become a state until 1912. So this is a territory now. So the laws are a little bit loose because it's not fully a state. I think in this respect, the Arizona Gazette really was using freedom of speech. It had nothing to fear. It could just put out what was happening. So explorations in the Grand Canyon, mysteries of immense high cavern being brought to light. All right. So remarkable findings indicate ancient people migrated from Orient. Now, this was kind of the running idea people had for a while, was that there must have been a civilization that migrated, a great civilization that migrated and left all of these artifacts behind. But as we're learning now, as this research has continued over 100 years, there's way too many artifacts for people who have migrated here. In fact, it looks like the opposite is true, because Egypt and Africa has the least amount of Egyptian artifacts. So could it be that was, if there were artifacts left over in Africa, that was from people migrating from the Americas? Was it vice versa? So basically, in this article, it goes down the story of Mr. Kincaid. And I'm going to go all the way down to his report. I love that you could tell this is the early 1900s because Mr. Kincaid was the first white child.
Yeah.
Born oh, God, I love the early 1900s, don't we? um, um, so this was his quote. First, I would impress that the cavern was nearly inaccessible. The entrance is 1,486 feet down the sheer canyon wall. It is located on government land, and no visitor will be allowed there under penalty of trespass. The scientists wish to work unmolested without fear or archaeological discoveries being disturbed by basically, hold on 1 second, something just popped up on my screen, people who are hunting for relics. A trip there would be fruitless, and the visitor would be sent on his way. The story of how I found the cavern has been related, but in a paragraph. I was journeying down the Colorado River in a boat alone looking for a mineral. Some 42 miles up the river from the El Tovar Crystal Canyon, I saw on the east wall stairs in the sedimentary formation of about 2,000 feet above the river bed. There was no trail to point this, but I finally reached it with great difficulty. Above a shelf, which hid it from view from the river, was the mouth of the cave. There are steps leading from this entrance some 30 yards to what was, at that time, the cavern was inhabited at the level of the river. So the water had obviously dropped from when he believes, and he's an archaeologist, guys. So remember, he can probably spot things in nature that we might not notice. You know, my stepdad's a geologist. He can spot things that I would never notice, right? So he's trained to see these things. Let's see. When I saw the chisel marks on the wall inside the entrance, I became interested, securing my pew-pew, and went in. During that trip, I went back several hundred feet along the main entrance till I came upon a crypt in which I discovered the mummies. One of these I stood up and photographed by flashlight. I gathered a number of relics, which I carried down the Colorado River to Yuma, from whence I shipped them to Washington with details of the discovery. Following this, the explanations were undertaken. So I'm going to tag this down below because you can read this down below, but what he found. But it's literally, I mean, the fact that he's giving such detailed information about what he found. And I guess at this point, he must have been like, yeah, I'll ship it to Washington, to the Smithsonian. They'll send me funds and we'll get more people out here to figure out why the hell they're mummies. They're hieroglyphs. Why is there a big Buddha statue? Why are there Shiva temples? Why is all this here in the Grand Canyon? And he's already talking about how at this point, as I said, they're already threatening people legally. They're already starting to do that. So so I'm going to put this down, this whole, because I want to talk more about the hieroglyphics too, because there's some like irrefutable evidence that I'm going to get to at the end about some stuff they can't explain. Is there anything you want to say about this article, Catherine, before I close it out?
The main thing I wanted to ask you about is, what did he spot? So was there evidence that people had been there before him? You know, in other words.
So I think from what I get, he spotted the stairs.
Yeah.
He was going down the river, and he, as an archaeologist, pulled over and climbed up. And from what I understand, what he said, like the water was higher at the time that this was an actual temple, or he called it the Citadel. And I think these were relics that had not been touched, allegedly. I mean, at this point, even time, like what is even time? Like we think this was like, what, 2,000 years ago, a little over 2,000 years that the Egyptians were probably, think about the Ptolemy dynasty with Cleopatra.
Yeah.
But now I even
had to look up when I saw the dates, although I knew this wasn't an issue because it was published that he used a flashlight, and if flashlights hadn't been available, that wouldn't have been in there. But I didn't even realize flashlights were available at that time, because obviously most properties didn't have didn't have electricity at that stage. So
imagine the flashlights for them probably looked a little bit more like lanterns back then.
Yeah,
I would say, and there might be some electricity to it, but I kind of saw them with like a lantern.
Well, no, I've just looked it up actually, and it did say that the dry cell battery, so 1899, the first flashlight. So yes, they were.
Had an actual flashlight.
So they've said yes. The fact that he mentions that he was doing it by flashlight adds more credibility to it. So it's interesting because it just was really making me think about what we've been told about different times. So, but I think one of the things that really stood out to me is we've seen so much misinformation. Everyone who watches your channel and watches mine, we're used to so much misinformation now and looking for the clues. And the fact that this was so shut down so quickly is very,
So
very
quickly.
suspicious.
Well, and that's so he contacted the Smithsonian. He worked for the Smithsonian. Come help me. Come, let's figure out what's going on. Like, and I've
Yeah.
learned, Catherine, in studying these lawsuits with the Smithsonian, it's not the archaeologists that are the problem. They are the ones suing the Smithsonian because they'll send in, same as Kincaid, they'll send in fossils, they'll send in relics, and next thing they know, the Smithsonian has incinerated them.
Mm.
You know, and so these archaeologists are like, what the hell? Like, this is our job. This is supposed to be your job to help us find the truth of human. And that's why we talked about Göbekli Tepe a couple of weeks ago. That's the problem with Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
It's the same situation, and we know there's been problems with Göbekli Tepe. So this is what I think happened. He finds this stuff. He's like, well, shit, this is weird. So he sends it to the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian comes in pretending like they're going to help. But they don't. They kill the story. They put up more regulations around there, and then all of a sudden Kincaid disappears. He vanishes.
Yeah.
And I was telling you, you know, I kind of take that. What if Kincaid was a real person? I take that with a grain of salt because of the time period.
Yeah.
Does it necessarily mean they deleted him? They unalived him? No, because this was the early 1900s. Anybody could disappear. I mean, how many people? How many European, I say loosely descent now, Americans come from ancestors who, you know, jumped ship, got on a ship as a stowaway, running from the law somewhere in Europe and created a new life in America. Like, this was easy to do back then. This was
Although what adds suspicion to it is the professor that he was with apparently disappeared as well.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that's nice. One of my cats has just come in and sprayed all over my basket. Thanks, Idris. Thanks for that contribution. But yes, there's so for anyone really wanting to dive deep in this, there's so much they can dive deep into. Basically, it's fascinating.
It's so fascinating. There's so much here. There's so much conspiracy speculation. I definitely think the Smithsonian was up to no good.
Yeah, completely. It's too much suspicious, and quite a few people have said that when you read the article, which I did think actually, that it does read like a half myth, half coded message. So they're wondering whether journalism and a cult, it was believed it was disguised as a way to leak forbidden knowledge.
Could have been, absolutely, because we know that there's in faction fighting with these groups.
Yeah.
And I mean, but again, coming back more modern to Göbekli Tepe, when they found what, all of a sudden we have these world renowned agencies being involved in Göbekli Tepe, and it shut it down. We know that the archaeologists are trying to continue to excavate, and they basically can't. They're stonewalled now. So we're seeing this more and more of when something, oopsie, when something is discovered that wasn't supposed to be discovered, they might pretend like they're interested, but then they come in and shut it down, and they start saying, oh, it's a hoax, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. But Catherine...
And any archaeologists who try and raise the alarm get completely cancelled. And where else have we seen that? You know, we've been talking a lot about that in the medical profession over the last 5 years, but it's been happening in archaeology for as long as we can remember, and in lots of areas of science, actually.
Do you know what else I found out, Catherine? Get this. I did not know this, but you know, in America, in the continent, for archaeologists when they excavate, they are not legally allowed to use the word pyramid. They have to call it a mound.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy when I found that? So an archaeologist who's excavating anywhere in the American continent. So this could be an archaeologist from France, from Italy, that's over in the United States, Mexico, wherever. They find something that's obviously a pyramid. They're not legally allowed to call it a pyramid. They have to call it down.
Reeks again of all the stuff that we're allowed to look at. What we're talking about in the pharmaceutical industry, where you can't call anything as a cure. So again, who's funding all this? Look at the money. Who's got the interest of keeping this hidden? Because what possible rational explanation could there be? Because we call it pyramids in all other areas of the world.
Exactly. Well, I'm wondering now, like, I would love to hear about archaeologists in the UK or in Europe or Eastern Europe or Asia. Are you allowed to use that? If you see what is obviously a pyramid, a triangle on the ground, are you allowed Because I didn't know that. I didn't know in my research, I came upon that, and we're going to talk more about that with Florida in a second. But they have to call them mounds. Well, Catherine, where I live around a bunch of quote unquote Indian mounds that I was told was where they buried people from the Native Americans. Now I'm not so sure. At first, I thought they might be the giants, but now I'm like, are they pyramids? Because we know that
while you're doing this, I'm your active researcher today whilst you're doing that. So yeah.
And that would be telling, Catherine, if it's only the American continent where they're not allowed to use the word pyramid, that would be very telling. Sometimes they tell on themselves.
In the UK, can an archaeologist call something a pyramid? Technically, yes, but with huge institutional pressure not to. So there is no law that bans an archaeologist from using the word pyramid, but in practice, they're pressured to use the term mound, barrow, or hill instead. That is fascinating. A practical example, in Scotland and parts of Wales, large conical or stepped mounds exist, some with aligned orientations and underground trainers. Independent researchers call them pyramids, but academics call them Neolithic burial mounds or ceremonial.
But we were told in America for the Indians that they were just putting bodies in these mounds.
That is so. Do you see? I just want to highlight the reason why Bryce suggested this topic today and why it's such fun is there's so many different areas you can dig deep into this, and words, we know words are spells, words are powerful. So there's a reason why they won't let them call them pyramids. They're trying to get you to look over here, not over here. So these are so significant. That's a great, I would not even have thought of asking that question had you not come up with that, Bryce.
It popped up in my research, and I mean, that the fact that you said in the UK they're called Neolithic burial mounds, but yet in the United States. So let's think about this, guys, from what the establishment wants us to believe. Yeah. So I'm a white person. I have a lot of English descent. So my ancestors were probably some of these Neolithic people over in the UK. I had some in France. You know, us white people in America were from all over Europe. So us white people are, according to the establishment, we have these burial mounds. But then the Native Americans also have burial mounds, but yet we're supposed to revere the Native American burial grounds because they buried their dead differently than we did in Europe as European descent people. But now you're telling me that we also have they can't keep up with their own lies.
Completely. And it's so important because this says why it matters. The word pyramid carries implications of intelligent design, not just primitive tribal behavior. And this you pulled out in all the research that to do with this subject matter. Associations, the word pyramid has associations with sacred geometry, ancient energy systems, and possibly a lost global civilization. So by stopping people use the word pyramid, they're stopping those associations. And I've just been doing a series, which Bryce will be on within the next couple of weeks, called Deprogrammed. And this is the ploy, is these, what they call in the terminology and the language really matters because they're diverging, they're making you not look at what they want hidden.
It's common. It's like one of these is not like the other. It's literally, this is what happened. You know those little toys that kids play with? I'm sure your kids had it, where it's like a ball and it has different shapes, and you take different shapes and and people say that game's actually really important because it's teaching kids pattern recognition.
Yeah.
Well, this is what this is. This is a grown-up game of that pattern recognition. Like something stinks in Denmark. Like they're lying to us. Like they are lying to us. Well, let's talk about the Hopi tribe, because we've talked about the Hopi tribe a lot with their prophecies. So the Hopi tribe is from an area. They were, according to the establishment, which I question this, but we'll go with this, there were 11 different tribes that lived in and around the Grand Canyon. Okay, so they had all sorts of mythology around, because they definitely, and some researchers have worked with chiefmen from these tribes, and they're fully aware that there's Egyptian mummies. They know. It's been passed down. They know. But what had the American government has done is put them on reservations. We all know, and I'm not trying to be nasty about this, and I'm just generalizing, this isn't everybody, but Native Americans have problems with alcohol. So what do? Is they pump alcohol into these reserves. They keep them very poor because these people know things. They know things. They can't just, genocide. We can't do that. They've done that in the past. But we can't do that right now, because that would look bad, right? So we got to do other things to get these people to shut up, right? So, and I would love, if you're someone of Native American descent, from this area, please let us know what your people knew. Your people were the first to really open our eyes about skinwalkers, which are everywhere. You know, I want to hear what your ancestors have to say. Please tell me the stories that were passed down, because there's more value, I think, in those stories than anything science is going to show.
Absolutely. So much value, because look at how much of them have been proved to be right.
True, right. And the Hopi people are like, yeah, there's Egyptian mummies. So get this, Catherine. So 11 different tribes apparently lived in this canyon. Their belief system, this gave me chill bumps, chill bumps, and also wanted to throw up, because I thought how light. Their belief system about the Grand Canyon matches to a T the belief system of the afterlife that they tell us the Egyptians with going through the journey. They believe that all souls, once they pass away, come to this canyon where they take the gateway to heaven or hell. That's the hieroglyphics of Egypt, you guys.
Yeah.
But they believe, and I like got chills and want to throw up at the same time, because I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This is just even more evidence that where they say Egypt is ain't nothing but a decoy. It's an amusement park. That's all it is. It's an amusement park. That's it. So they also believe that this was the birthplace of humanity, the Grand Canyon, and that this is where the lizard people came out to create humans. So this is the origin point of humanity. Now, this matches what the Cassiopeans have said. Not necessarily about Egypt, but how we got here. We got here because the Lizzies tricked us into coming here. We're the fallen angels. We were up here hanging out. The Lizzie said, hey, look at this beautiful physicality. And we came down. And now we're here living out our karma here. So now they've
Curiosity killed the cat.
Right, exactly. And now we just want to finish it. That's what Todd was laughing, because someone was like, is it a trick to walk back into the light? And Todd was like, the trick's already passed. We've already been tricked. Now we just got to finish it. Now, the Cassiopeans have never said anything about where this took place. But the fact that the Hopi talked about how the lizard people created humanity in this area, that story matches what the seas say. So that is wild to me. Now, should we talk a little bit? Okay, so I want to also talk just briefly, if you guys want to research this, the Mississippi River, the mighty Mississippi.
Common sense is at an all-time low, and denial is a motherfucker. That's why I'm going to present you with the facts and expect you to do the heavy lifting with your critical thinking. First and foremost, the Mississippi River is the true Nile. In Isaiah 11:15, it says, and the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. That's what it says. The Nile does not do this. But you know what does? The Mississippi. Second point. The Mississippi still runs through the ancient cities that it ran through in the beginning of time. Thebes, Cairo, and Memphis. You have been made to believe that we named our cities after modern day Egypt, when in fact that is not true. Modern day Egypt named its cities after our cities in ancient America, which is also ancient Egypt. And before this video gets too long, I'm just gonna add in a final point. Did you know that the Americas have more pyramids than the entire planet combined? Yeah. We'll get into the Grand Canyon on the next video.
Oh, yes.
You guys, it matches every single historical marker of the Nile. In fact, the Nile in Egypt does not match. Now, this is coming up from a lot of biblical references and Torah. Now, you guys know I don't trust the Bible for spiritual purposes, but as far as references historically, yes, because this was written by the Freemasons and they know what's going on and they have to tell us the truth somehow. Whether we consent to it or not is up to us. So there are 7 different streams that come off of the Mississippi come off of the Nile, that's spoken about in the Bible and other texts. But the Nile doesn't have 7 streams that come off of it. Do you know what does? The Mississippi.
Okay.
The Mississippi does.
Ask you to spell Mississippi. I never
learned. SSI. We have to do this game when we were kids because
we don't here. We're lucky. We've got the River Thames. So
well, I mean, talk about THAMS. What did the people mistaken say? Thames. So
yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah. So thank goodness. But yeah, I found that absolutely fascinating. That's one of the things I wrote down on my notes. So there's clues everywhere. And as you say, we're not saying this isn't about which area is superior or not.
No.
For me, it's all about, I mean, I don't care at all. I just think, why, again, the deception, and every single thing that this community looks into, it doesn't matter what we look into, it's all a lie.
It's all a lie.
It's all a lie.
So that means, Catherine, that New Orleans is Alexandria. So the missing library of Alexandria, are we looking in the wrong damn place? Should we be looking in the Gulf of Mexico for Cleopatra's tomb, since nobody has found Cleopatra's tomb? Is it in
Are
the
you going to play that clip with Elon Musk?
I can't. I can put it.
You can't play it. You can put it in a link, but
I'll put it in the link.
What he says.
Oh my God, he's like he basically tells this interviewer that America is Egypt.
Jordan Peterson. He's being interviewed by Jordan Peterson.
And it's hysterical because he starts laughing. He basically tells him,
yeah,
Africa is Egypt. Egypt's not in Africa.
Yeah.
It's in America.
And it goes straight over Jordan Peterson's head, and then Elon Musk is laughing. And you know, Elon Musk, love him or hate him, he is very much known for giving away, you know, all in plain sight. You know, this is the whole point about these spiritual laws, mean they have to tell people. And if they're told and something isn't done about it, then that's counted as consent.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he starts laughing hysterically. Anybody who has done this research knows what he just told him. He just said, Egypt ain't in Africa, buddy. That's not Egypt. And that comes too, because Catherine, they want us to believe that life originated in Africa.
Yeah.
So anything they tell you, just look opposite direction. It didn't. And again, Catherine, as you're saying, this doesn't make any country or group of people any more superior than the next. We all screwed up. We're all the fallen angels. We all got ourselves in this mess together, right? We're all walking each other home together. Just because I was born here in America, it doesn't matter to me the location. In reality, we were saying this offline, Catherine. In reality, it doesn't matter to me where Egypt is.
Yeah.
The point is that we've been lied to. That's the point. Right? It doesn't.
Absolutely. And we've spoken so much. I mean, not when I say we, I'm talking about all of us in this community, not Bryce and I. But the thing is, true history really reconnects people with their divine power. You know, this spiritual control is all about us not understanding our true innate power.
Yeah.
And if we had most people understand that the native people from whatever region they are have got special abilities, special knowledge, that deep connection. And if we all realize that we had that deep connection, then suddenly we'd all start opening up to our hidden powers. And that's the last thing they want us to realize. So it's more about this, and also the technology suppression, because again, if people understand that these weren't just primitive tribes and there weren't certain, look at the whole history of what we were told. It's the elites only certain civilizations had these advanced powers. When they realized that all these civilizations had the advanced powers and the technologies and the frequency and the magnetism and the free energy and the alignment and the sacred geometry, suddenly everyone's going to be, well, stuff you. We're going back to our roots. Thanks very much.
Exactly. We all got along just fine. Well, if it triggers you, if us talking about this triggers you, that's not an us problem. That's a you problem, because you're attached to your ego, right?
And there are lots of people that get very triggered by that.
Triggered by this. And why does it? Well, first of all, my day-to-day life, it doesn't matter. In my day-to-day life, I'm not thinking about that. What matters is that we've been lied to. What matters is, Catherine said, they've hidden stuff from us. What matters is that there's a reason why. And there's I'm going to talk about one theory of why they would. This is just theories, guys. But there was also an alabaster sphinx that was found in Memphis, Tennessee in 1911. Interesting, around the same time.
Yeah.
Now, like, if you go to Memphis, and they tell us that all these towns in America were named after Egyptian towns. What if Egypt in Africa was named after the towns here that were already here in America? Because there is a big pyramid in Memphis, and a new one, a glass one that they've created. Was that put there as a mockery to be like, this is the actual Memphis that's on the Mississippi, the mighty Mississippi, aka the Nile River? And why was there an alabaster sphinx that was found in this Memphis in 1911? Now they say, oh, no, that was just built and to commemorate.
Of course it was.
So, are you fucking kidding me? Like, okay, now also one thing, I remember how I talked about those healing waters, the legends of healing waters. Well, there's tons of those in Florida. I've been to many of them. Florida is a hot state, but those killing waters are. When Catherine, you come next time, I'm gonna take you to them because they're cold and they're turquoise blue. So the pictures you see, that's literally what they look like, guys. I've been to many of them, and they're very cold. And they had this legend that you would get in the waters and it would heal you. The Egyptians had this. Also, the Native Americans had this, right? Ponce de Leon, he was looking for the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
Right now, the Egyptologist, which is laughable. I'm sorry if you're that's the least science person I trust as an Egyptologist. They think that all of these healing springs were just mirages, which again were hallucinations, but they exist in Florida. They exist there in a very hot climate. You'll find these patch of trees with these healing springs. You also have the sulfur spring, the warm that I've been to, the warm sulfur spring that's there. That apparently is a mirage in Egypt, but no, it's there in Florida. It's near where my boyfriend's family lives. Now, what's interesting, Catherine, is that right above the healing springs of Florida, where they're bunched together, is this town in the state of Georgia where I live, because Florida and Georgia, there's a state line. Do you know what that town is called?
What?
Cairo.
I love it because it's like
They say Cairo.
Okay. The reason I'm laughing, sorry, I'm trivializing this, but when I grew up, there was a children's TV program called Captain Pugwash. And in Captain Pugwash, there were characters called Seaman Staines and Master Bates. And all the adults, obviously the children wouldn't understand this, but all the parents watched it for years. And it's only when someone pointed it out that everyone was like, oh my God, have we been watching this for years? And no one picked up on it. This is the same thing. It's like all in plain sight. And it's like one of those pictures you look at. You just shift your focus slightly and everything starts becoming clear.
It is like they say Cairo now, but Cairo, that's Cairo.
But you Americans can't pronounce anything.
I know, right? Right. there it is, where the red dot is. It's a tiny town. It's a tiny town. And then all of the Florida Springs are right. So there's like Wakulla right here, all down into here, all these springs that come from the Okefenokee Swamp, the Swanee River. So how interesting is it that Cairo, if we look at this as a pyramid, is at the top of the pyramid of these healing springs? Coincidence? Seems a little odd. Throwing in the Grand Canyon, throwing in the Mississippi River, throwing in Tennessee, the land of literally means translates to the land of Isis. Seems a little strange. Throw in the Appalachian Mountains. This is where these springs are, just south of the Appalachian Mountains, being the oldest mountain chain in the world. Again, for the people in Scotland, you guys know exactly what we're talking about. Now, Siesta Key. Have you been to Siesta Key?
No.
So with Siesta Key, we try to walk there every morning because this is like 10 minutes from where my boyfriend's family is from. I'm going to show you Siesta Key. There's a key is an island, guys. So it's this little island off the coast. So you see it right here. It's in Sarasota. It's a little key. So you have to take a bridge to get to it. It's very close to the land, but it's technically an island. Let's go to images here. Now, this beach is known for something. It's known for its sand. Its sand is pure white. And no matter how hot it is outside, the sand is always cool. This is because the sand, they've realized, just here on this one particular little key, is crystals. It's crushed up crystals. Now, science will say that it came from the Appalachian Mountain and just rolled down into the keys, but there are like hundreds of keys to hit before Siesta Key. So how come Siesta Key ended up with this sand and no other key has this sand? Now, the Cassiopeans say this brings us to the pyramids of Florida. There are tons of pyramids in Florida. You might think that's crazy because Florida's flat, but go look and see how many mounds are in Florida. Turtle Mound. There's also a huge the Bermuda Triangle, according to the seas, is a pyramid underwater from the Atlantean time, which we know the Atlantean time predates Egypt. Egypt was an offshoot of Atlantean stuff. So my boyfriend speculates that this is crystals from some pyramid that maybe was crushed, because it's very strange. And the beach, guys, when you walk on it, it doesn't feel like regular. It's beautiful to walk on. We try to go there all the time to pick up the magnetism. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Now, that brings me to the seal, which I'm going to put up in the editing process. Did I send you the seal of Florida?
Yes.
Never even. This is what they say, like hidden in plain sight. I've seen the Florida seal my whole life because Florida's a neighboring state. Every state has a seal, and I just ignored it. But what did you notice something interesting about the Florida seal, Catherine?
I didn't look at it closely because, I wasn't. Let me open it up. Are you going to put it on the screen?
I'll put it on the screen in editing. But there's
Yeah.
something in the background of the Florida seal. We think of Florida as being flat.
Oh, yes. I'm just looking at it. That doesn't look like Florida.
They're pyramids, aren't they?
There's a pyramid, yeah, with a palm tree.
And then when we see mounds, we think of the roundness, but like pyramids are triangles. Like they're like, isn't that crazy?
That's so funny. It's like when you people that look into words, you know, history is his story, which is never our story. So
No. Now, one thing I know too very well, because my boyfriend breaks the law on this quite a bit. In the United States, when I was growing up, Catherine, we would find arrowheads in our backyard a lot as kids. Arrowheads, we would find them everywhere. They're from the Native Americans. They would use them for bow and arrows, and we would just pocket them. Now, it is against the law. If you find artifacts on your property and you keep them and don't tell the government, you can go to jail.
yeah.
Also, if you're found digging, even on your own property, you can go to jail. That's how scared they are of people finding artifacts. Now, I don't know if that's just the United States. That was not how it was when I was a kid. But when I was a kid, the internet wasn't around. And so I think they had a safety net. But now that the internet's around and Catherine, you know, inquisitive, curious rebels like Catherine and me opened up our channels and we're talking about this stuff, now they've made it against the law. So I would be curious in all countries outside the United States, is there laws now about artifacts digging? Because that's a huge, again, they tell on themselves, Catherine, they do shit like that. And they tell on themselves. Like, what are you trying to hide? You're on your property. You should be able to dig if you're on your property.
Well, in the UK, you can dig anywhere. And we've got loads of people that have metal detectors and go out looking because obviously there's loads of ancient things. But I'm just reading out. In England, Wales and Northern Ireland, the Treasures Act 1996 mandates that certain finds must be reported to the coroner within 14 days of discovery.
Does the coroner know this?
Yes, reader. So an object is legally defined as a treasure. I'm a treasure. If it meets these things: age and material, any metallic object, excluding coins, that are at least 300 years old and contain at least 10% gold or silver. Well, if you're just going out with your metal detector, you wouldn't know that. Coin hoards, so 2 or more coins from the same find that are at least 300, prehistoric cultures, associated finds. So you have to report things like that. But I mean, quite frankly, if it's not officially classified, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. You wouldn't know. A normal person wouldn't know if it was over 300. Even if it doesn't meet the criteria for treasure, it's encouraged to. So basically, no, it's not as strict here. But then, you know, we laugh about different things in different countries, because when you're not living there, when my friend in California told me it was illegal for them to keep chickens in their garden and grow vegetables, I just laughed at her and I said, don't be so silly, that can't be true. And then I looked it up and it was true.
Yeah.
Seriously, you guys, you talk about your constitution and you laugh about us in the UK with our restrictions, but at least we're allowed to hunt for treasure.
Well, they don't even let us really know. My boyfriend got warned because he was out there looking for Native American artifacts like we used to do as kids. So I'm like, where are these laws being voted on? Because we would do that as kids. We would do that all the time as kids, and no one was stopping us. I mean, I went to the Marietta History Museum with Jessica Jones. This is outside of Atlanta, and we went to the little gift shop, and they had these old bullets from the Civil War. And we're looking through them, and she asked, like, are these really bullets? And the girl's like, yeah. She goes, and now we're not allowed to go collect them. So we can't even pick up bullets from the Civil War. Like, what is happening? What? And I just want to say, like, they're telling on themselves. So guys, go look at and wherever you live in the world, go look at your laws. Are you
look at it? Because I had to look it up. It's not something that an everyday person.
No.
But we have loads of people. It's a really quite a big hobby in the UK about people looking for ancient treasure with metal detectors and things. We get them in our horses' paddock and things. They come and have a look. And I'm like, yeah, but if you find something really good, I'm going to nick it off you.
It's ours. Well, I can understand some regulation on like public land, but private land, you should be able to do what you want. And they so I just guys, go wherever you live in the world, go check out
check it out. Let us know.
Wherever you live in the world, are your archaeologists allowed to say pyramids? Are they allowed to, or do they have to be say mounds? Or are you allowed to actually look for things in your backyard? When I was a kid, I'm not that old. I was born in 1983. I'm older than some of but that wasn't that long ago. We were allowed to do this.
Yeah.
Something fun we did. Now we're not. Why? Because the internet came around and people are like, huh, seems like we might be lied to. Like,
yeah.
are they censoring, are they censoring archaeological digs now too? Now, two more things I want to say, just this is crazy. I saved this for the end. One of the things we see on Egyptian hieroglyphics, Catherine, a lot of is corn.
Yeah.
You guys, corn is from Mexico. It's from the Balsas River Valley, which is south central Mexico, so Central America. Maize is what they called it, maize. So corn came from Mexico. Corn did not, according to the history books, corn did not hit Europe until 1493. The year after Christopher Columbus founded the New World. We know that's when coffee was brought over, some different things were brought over from the New Worlds, the quote unquote, which is actually the old world. How funny is that? Invert everything, right? So how, and then from Europe, it expanded outward to China, to Africa. That's how corn in 500 years-ish is how it got to where we all have corn. So how come, riddle me that, Catherine, if Egypt is in Africa, why do they have hieroglyphics of corn? When corn was, at that point, when they tell us Egypt existed, was only in the Americas.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God.
It's crazy.
We must have someone watching this that is either an archaeologist, a historian, or knows some. And I so want to hear from them. I so want to hear. Is it like, I'm in the natural health and the biological medical field, have been for years. I know how sensitive we are. We're not allowed to talk about natural cures. I want to hear what it's like in your world, because I'm not in that world at all, and I don't know what you're putting up to. I have heard a lot of, the archaeologists speaking about how they're completely ridiculed and called conspiracy theorists and made fun of, like Graham Hancock, when they try and say, no, this is all wrong, you've been lied to. They're just ridiculed. Is that still a thing? Are people suffering from that? Because we want to know.
Because this is obvious. Like, if corn wasn't in Africa at this time, then why are there corn hieroglyphics? Like, this is obviously hieroglyphics are from the United States, and they moved them to the Disney World, to the I know you have an exercise class, but two more things, guys. They found 5,000-year-old ostrich shells with Egypt, and it was America. You have to go on DuckDuckGo to find that, because Google not. They found these. That's how they did maps back then, was on ostrich shells. We know camels are actually from the United States, or from the colony. They're not from Africa. They're from the U.S. And then we also have the Aplomata falcon. The Aplomata falcon, which is from the American colonies, and that is Horus, the god Horus. It's not from Africa. That falcon doesn't exist in Africa. It exists in the Americas. Now, I told you, Catherine, one theory somebody's had, they went back. We know the Cassiopeians have claimed that I can't say the word, the S word, who we think the S people are, S-E-M, I'm just going to leave it that. I'm not going to spell the whole thing just because this is white teeth, is actually us. It's not Hebrew. And one guy did this math with the Bible about the 400 years and the ships that came over to Egypt to bring the slaves, which we think was biblical times. 400 years from when the guy did this was 1619. This was 2019, right before 2020, when the Great Lockdown. So before we had the Great Lockdown, he had already theorized that they had lied about Egypt because America is Egypt, and the ships that came in were the settlers, and those were the slaves. It was crazy. I don't know the Bible as well when it comes to gematria and that kind of stuff but I mean, that's a possibility. I'm open to all possibilities. The only thing I know is they've lied to us. What are any theories, any thoughts you have, Catherine, before you go work out?
I'm just laughing because this is such fun, and it's such fun because look, we can be far more open-minded about things that we haven't got a strong emotional or belief system attachment to. So I've just always known what I was taught in history wasn't true. I've just always known that. Of course, there'll be some things. It's like conspiracies. They'll put in X percentage of truth, some to keep you hooked that you can back up, and then lie about the rest. So I can be, I've got no skin in this game. I just find it absolutely fascinating. And for me, I love it. Things like this give me real hope because there's so many of us that have thought things haven't made sense. This doesn't make sense. We're feeling disconnected. We're feeling disconnected because you've been lied to. And once you sort of release all that, we don't need to know the absolute answers about everything. But it's sort of really, I think so many people are not opening up to their innate abilities. And I think when you let go of what you've been told about your history, about your connection, about your spiritual powers, about the connection with the land, the powers of the land, the energetics, I think suddenly this is going to trigger the next massive wage in the awakening, and this is what's going to transform everything, and we will be unstoppable then, absolutely unstoppable.
Guys, I have a confession to make. America is Egypt. The Creeks are actually the Greeks. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the Iroquois, are the Romans. Utah is the land of Judah. New York is the oldest city on the planet. And the Mississippi River is the Nile. The New World is actually the Old World. Life started in the Americas. There's more pyramids and mummies here than any part of the world. Turtle Island is actually Pangea. Noah built his ark out of wood that only grows in Florida for a flood that only floods like in Florida. Back in Adam and Eve's days and even the days of Noah, everybody was giant. And they also find giants all over the East Coast of America. The Smithsonian and the Vatican have destroyed all the giant bones. They were anywhere from about 7 feet to 25 feet tall. The Mesopotamian creation story about the Anunnaki, the twin brothers that came from the stars, named Enki and Enlil, that created mankind and taught them things, sounds a lot like a lot of Native American creation stories about two twin brothers that came from the stars that were giants and created mankind and everything. Elephants come from America. They derive from woolly mammoths. Camels also come from America. They derive from alpacas and llamas in South America. So do zebras and horses. Cheetahs also come from America. The Aztecs called their lands Aztlan, and it's actually Atlantis. The Egyptian gods, Horus was a peregrine falcon from upstate New York. Set was a South American anteater. Anubis was a dog from Central America. Isis is a blue heron from upstate New York as well. If life started in Africa, why doesn't everybody have African DNA? But everybody has a Cherokee grandma or a Blackfoot princess grandma. Modern science says mankind started in Africa 300,000 years ago. But here's a hammer that's 400 million years old, found in Texas.
And enough of this thinking one group of people is better than, we all fucked up together. We're the fallen angels, according to Cassie. We all ended up in this mess together. And so we've got to walk each other home together. So, Catherine, last question. Do you think Egypt's in Africa?
No, I don't at all. I think for me the evidence is pretty overwhelming, and I think it really matters because of that connection. What it does mean is that the Africans have been lied to, and there'll be hidden history and all this amazing stuff in all of us on all of our continents. So I think the fact of the matter is if everyone just really sort of opens themselves up, you don't need to travel to Glastonbury or wherever your equivalent of Glastonbury. I'm just saying that because I'm in the UK. We don't need to travel to these spiritual places. They're everywhere. We're connected everywhere.
Yes,
We
they're
can do it
everywhere.
right here, right now. We so think that we need something external from outside of us. No, we don't. Go outside, ground wherever you are, connect in, ask for that wisdom and the power to come through, and you'll feel it surging through.
The whole earth is sacred. The whole earth is sacred.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot, the one big thing I forgot too was the gold, Catherine. I'll add it in here right now. I think I told you this. The gold the Egyptians talk about that they used to write in their papyruses is a certain type of gold. That certain type of gold is only found in Georgia, where I live, the state of Georgia, not in Africa. So the corn and the gold thing, that's a pretty like hardcore, like, makes you scratch your head. Like, no. So I agree. Africa, sorry, you're a beautiful continent, but Egypt is not there. That is the Disney World Egypt. That is the amusement park Egypt. The Egypt of the ancients was here in the United States. They tell us it's the new world. No, honey, this is the old world. And guess what? We've all been every race, every gender, every culture under the sun through our system of reincarnation, and we're all in this shit together, okay? And they've lied to us for a reason. That's the most important thing. The lie isn't what's important. What's important is that they actually lied to us.
Yeah.
And we've got to defund the Smithsonian. Come on, Mr. T. Like, they do not need to be. They have gotten in so much trouble. Do not. If you find anything, please do not give it to the Smithsonian. Please don't do that.
No, ever.
Keep it in your family. Do not give it to the Smithsonian. So, all right, Catherine. I know you've got.
This is such fun. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the comments. Be kind. We're not pretending we know everything, but we're loving asking these questions. And to me, it's so freeing. It's just phenomenal. I love that.
Yeah. And if you're triggered by this, that's your problem. That's your ego. I'm not triggered by this. The location doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that they lied that matters to me. So,
and if anyone's got information, please connect in with us, because we'd love to look into and more, because it means the people in Egypt have been lied to, and they're covering up what's really in Egypt and the reason it's really there. I mean, we know that what we've all been told about pyramids is complete lies anyway. But there's magic everywhere we look. Let's all uncover it, and as we uncover it, I really feel that connection, the power, the inner power. We don't need to wait for anything external to us. We're all gonna it's like that sort of, we're gonna plug ourselves into the earth grid and everything's gonna come alive, and then the baddies, they're gone.
Their power's gone. As the Cassiopeians say, knowledge is power, knowledge protects. And I think I'm gonna make a t-shirt that says that's not a mound, it's a pyramid.
Yeah. We must have two though over our boobs. If anyone wants to make us some pictures like that, please do. I mean, you can just imagine, we can't put that on our chest, Bryce. We'll have to
put it on their pants. On their pants.
Don't even go there. Too much. Anyway, I've really enjoyed that today. Thanks so much, everyone. Let us know what you think. And people have got knowledge, please connect in. We'd love it.
We're just learning. We're just talking about our research, guys. Like, this is
great subject, guys. Absolutely great subject. I loved it.
Maybe we'll review it again sometime if we find more stuff, because that was we just barely skimmed the surface, you guys. This is deep. So check out Old World Florida. I'll put that YouTube channel down below, and I'll put the YouTube channel America is Egypt down below as well, where these people dedicate their whole channels to this subject, guys. So if you want even more, I'll put those down there so you can go watch their videos as well. So, all right, you
love it. And we'll be back next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.